What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. I'd say nobody even thought this was a possibility. AJ Styles in the WWE and AJ Styles winning the WWE Championship, it was unimaginable. The thought of Styles holding that title seemed like a pipe dream. But in 2016, both of those fantasies became a reality. In this video, I cover AJ Styles' rise to the top of WWE. For me to talk about this one, let me give you a background on Styles' run before WWE. Now, before this video starts, I literally thought Edge was going to win the vote. Since he didn't, I'm looking to make a Rise of Edge video, but before I make that Rise of Edge video, I gotta talk about Edge and Christian. It wouldn't make sense for me to make a Rise of Edge video and not include the tag team of Edge and Christian. So those two will have their own separate video before I make a video on Edge's singles run. So the next Rise of I'm gonna make is basically the Rise of Edge and Christian. It's gonna be covering their runs in the Brood and how they became a goofy tag team and whatnot. So expect that to be the next Rise of video. Alright, Styles before WWE made a name for himself in TNA. It's well known. In Impact Wrestling, Styles was basically the face of the company. Styles' greatest accolades in TNA were holding the NWA World Heavyweight Championship on 3 occasions, the TNA World Heavyweight Championship on 3 occasions also, the TNA X Division Championship on 6 occasions. He had many more accolades, but I just mentioned these. After being lowballed by TNA, Styles decided to take his talents elsewhere. In an interview with Title Match Wrestling, Styles revealed why he left Impact Wrestling in 2014, and I quote, "I think that saying 60% is being generous. To be honest with you, and it's kind of crazy when that's their first offer. Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. I've worked here for 11 years and hard for 11 years. I haven't gotten less popular here. I've been more popular, especially the last year, so I don't know what's going on. This doesn't make much sense to me. Honestly, TNA were stupid in letting Styles go. He was one of the guys that helped build this company, yet this is how they repaid him." Styles from there wrestled on the indie scene, and he also returned to Ring of Honor. In March of 2014, Styles signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he solidified himself as arguably the best wrestler in the world. He became the leader of the Bullet Club after Prince Devitt Finn Balor left New Japan. During his time in New Japan, Styles won the IWGP Heavyweight Championship twice for a total of 307 days as champ. His run in New Japan came to an end at Wrestle Kingdom 10 on January 4th, 2016. On that night, he lost to Shinsuke Nakamura in an IWGP Intercontinental Championship match. The next day, Styles was kicked out of the Bullet Club and Kenny Omega became the new leader. So basically, it looked like Styles was on his way to WWE. More fuel was added to the fire when WWE.com released an article asking if these 4 men were coming to the company. Who remembers this article? I felt like that's it, he's coming. Why would they talk about this? It felt like this was a sign of things to come. It wasn't until January 24th, 2016, which was the night of the Royal Rumble, that Styles officially signed with WWE. On that night, Styles entered the Royal Rumble at number 3. Roman Reigns was shocked and the crowd was so excited to see Styles in a WWE ring. For me though, I thought this was the best debut of the decade. You might say Sting had the best debut and I wouldn't really disagree, but Styles in WWE was basically unimaginable to me. It felt like he was always gonna avoid working for the company. In the end though, he was finally here. Now, there were some doubts as to how Styles was going to work in WWE because some thought he'd be buried and he'd be a mid-carder and whatnot, and we'll get to that later. Styles lasted for 29 minutes during the Royal Rumble before getting eliminated by the troll Kevin Owens. After the Rumble, Styles was placed in a program with Y2J Chris Jericho. The next night on Raw, Renee Young interviewed AJ Styles. While AJ Styles spoke about who he was, Chris Jericho interrupted and Y2J said that he's been waiting for a long time for Styles to arrive in WWE. In the end, Jericho welcomed Styles to the big leagues and he gave him a hard pat on his chest. Jericho ended up losing to Styles several minutes later. After the matchup, AJ offered a handshake. After several seconds, Jericho shook Styles' hand, but as Styles was leaving, he pulled him back, so there was some kind of tension between the two. The next week, The Miz hosted Miz TV and his guest was AJ Styles. The Awesome One said that Styles reminded him of Daniel Bryan, a guy who was in the minor leagues and was irrelevant until he was placed with The Miz. He then asked Styles if he wanted to be guided by him. The fans booed him and he said that Styles will drown in the shark-infested WWE ocean if he continued to listen to the fans. The Miz then asked the fans if a little rookie redneck like AJ Styles could make it to the WWE without his guidance. Styles heard enough and he unloaded on The Miz, who scrambled all the way to the stage. Now, The Miz at this point had yet to be relevant again. He was always getting his ass kicked on his own show. Every time. I don't think Miz ever had the upper hand on his show. It always ended with him getting his ass kicked. Anyways, after the Phenomenal One beat The Miz on that week's SmackDown, Chris Jericho entered the ring and he asked Styles if he has what it takes to beat Y2J twice. Chris Jericho then challenged Styles to a matchup for the following week's SmackDown. That match didn't happen until after they teamed up with one another to face the Social Outcasts. Remember them? They obviously beat them. Later that night, Chris Jericho got his win, and they were tied at 1 apiece. Since both men beat one another, AJ Styles challenged Chris Jericho to a rematch at Fastlane. Y2J accepted, and the match was set. At Fastlane, Styles made Jericho tap out to the calf crusher. This was a pretty good matchup. I remember enjoying it at the time. This victory didn't sit well with Jericho. He decided to give everyone his honest thoughts on the phenomenal one the next night on Raw. Y2J called out AJ to say what he has on his mind. Jericho said that Styles last night proved that he isn't good, he isn't great, but he's phenomenal. After this, the two formed a small partnership called Y2AJ. They beat the New Day and they got a title shot against them the following week. The crowd was pretty hot for this match. They really wanted to see Jericho and Styles win the gold. It was an electric match and it was really entertaining. That match ended with Big E hitting the big ending on Y2J to retain their titles. After the match, Styles helped Jericho get back up when Y2J suddenly hit a devastating codebreaker as the crowd were stunned. They literally made a t-shirt for it, and that was Chris Jericho's idea. Like, he's a mastermind at this. He realized that if we made a t-shirt of this, they're not going to expect a heel turn to come. Jericho then hit a second code breaker, but wait, that wasn't all. He then hit a third code breaker, and he even put the Y2AJ shirt in Styles' mouth. Now, the reason why Jericho attacked Styles is because of the fans of Chicago continuously chanting, AJ Styles, AJ Styles, and that pissed him off because this was the place he debuted back in 1999. On that week's SmackDown, Jericho burned a Y2AJ shirt. Man, I had completely forgot about this. Y2J at this point was stale, so this heel turn was such a great thing to happen. It wasn't really a resurgence or whatnot, but it helped his career immensely. It was like someone lit a fire in Jericho, no pun intended. On the March 21st episode of Raw, Styles interrupted Y2J's match with Fandango, and he called him Y2 Jackass. After the match, the Phenomenal One ran into the ring, but Jericho retreated. AJ Styles questioned Jericho's claim of being the best in the world at what he does, and he challenged him to a match at WrestleMania so he could show him why the fans chant AJ Styles. Jericho would accept the match the following week. Now, that match was one of the better matchups, WrestleMania 32. I haven't watched it since then, but I remember enjoying it. The one thing that did confuse me about the match was the fact that Y2J won. In the end, though, I believe Jericho did deserve the win because Styles the next night moved on to bigger and better things. Other than that, it should have been Styles. That's the only reason I have for why Y2J deserved the win. He was going on to feud with Ambrose, and he kind of needed the win, but other than that, he didn't deserve it. The next night saw AJ Styles become the #1 contender to the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I don't think I expected Styles to win this one, because Owens had just lost the IC title the previous night, and to me it looked like a feud between Owens and Reigns was on the horizon. Nonetheless, Styles was in the WWE title scene. On that week's SmackDown, Roman Reigns said that he isn't a bad guy or a good guy. He's the guy. And the fans booed the hell out of him. Remember this? Like, April 2016 was probably the peak of Roman Reigns being booed. Reigns told Styles that despite beating several guys, he's never beaten him. The following week, Styles' buddies, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, reunited with him. The duo got involved in this feud between Reigns and Styles by attacking Roman, and it led to like a gang war between the two teams, the Club and the Usos. The WWE Champion accused Styles of being involved in this. Styles denied this, saying that he has no idea that they were coming, and he even said that he doesn't need his friends to beat Roman Reigns. The match between the two at Payback was awesome, but it was ultimately overshadowed by their match at Extreme Rules, and rightfully so. That match was an absolute classic, and it was probably Roman's best match up to that point. It might even be his best match ever. He took a distraction from one of the Usos for Styles to lose. He was blasting them with the chairs, and then he went for the Styles Clash, and he got a spear, and it was an awesome ending to an awesome matchup. The fans at this point thought Styles was buried and done. Like, look at these comments. Look at those comments. They thought he was done. The following night on Raw, Styles decided that the club should separate. Gallows and Anderson didn't like this one bit, and they even said that they aren't friends with Styles anymore. Later that night, Styles lost a Money in the Bank qualifying match against Kevin Owens. Just reading the comments, the fans thought Styles was destroyed. I showed you those comments a few seconds ago, but look at these comments too. They were absolutely fuming at this. But what we didn't know was that Styles was going to be involved in something that would contribute to his ascension to the main event scene in WWE. On the May 30th episode of Raw, John Cena finally returned to WWE after nearly 5 months. AJ Styles decided to come out to the ring during Cena's promo. He stated that he's waited a long time for this moment. Styles welcomed Cena back, and it looked like we were going to finally get that dream match, but Gallows and Anderson came out. The two were out here to kick ass, Styles included. Cena and Styles were ready for a fight, but then AJ blasted Cena. There's the heel turn. Gallows and Anderson entered the ring, where the trio assaulted the champ, and the club was reformed. The match between the two was booked for Money in the Bank later that week. On the final Raw before Money in the Bank, both men signed the contract for the match. Before Styles signed the contract, Cena offered two of them, one for Styles versus Cena, and the other for the club versus Cena. Styles said that if he was in WWE 15 years ago, then Cena would have done many things, such as become a 15-time champion. He said that AJ Styles himself would have done this stuff. Cena then told AJ to sign the singles match to prove him wrong. The Phenomenal One signed the contract, and the match was official. After the contract signing, Styles ended the promo telling Cena that at Money in the Bank, he's going to realize that his time is up, and AJ Styles' time is now. The match between the two and Money in the Bank delivered. I do think it's the weakest of their next two matches, but that really isn't saying much. The following two were some of WWE's greatest matches of the decade. During the match, Cena hoisted AJ up, looking for the AA when he knocked down the ref. He successfully went for the AA and he was looking for the cover, but the ref was knocked down on the outside of the ring. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson ran down to the ring and they cost Cena the match. Styles has beaten John Cena. It wasn't clean, but he got the job done. Over the next couple of weeks, the club did what they do best: beat up John Cena. This led to Enzo and Cass saving Cena one night, and they teamed up with him to face the club at Battleground. Enzo, Cass, and Cena beat the club. Now, I didn't go into detail with this because this video needs some other mentions. On July 19, 2016, AJ Styles was drafted to the SmackDown brand along with John Cena. Gallows and Anderson weren't drafted to SmackDown, they were drafted to Raw. I barely remember anything from their run there. I believe they won the titles once, but I don't remember much. On the August 2nd episode of SmackDown, AJ Styles issued a challenge to John Cena for SummerSlam. Before he challenged him, Styles cut a promo on kids. He said that you don't get a trophy for participating, you get it for winning. Styles wanted to prove to the C Nation that John's a fraud. Styles then asked Cena why he's still here, to which the face that runs the place replied that he's here for the fans and that WWE was, is, and always will be his home. Cena said that Styles is here to be a really good wrestler, and that if it doesn't work out here, he'll move someplace else. Cena said that hustle, loyalty, and respect are his heart, and he asked Styles what the hell is he doing here. This led to Styles issuing the challenge: John Cena, AJ Styles, SummerSlam. Cena accepted, and the match was set. The Phenomenal One said that the best thing about SummerSlam is going to be when he beats Cena, and on SmackDown Live later that week, Cena's going to say that Styles is better than him. If he doesn't, then he's a liar, and if he does, then he's a loser. Damn. This was one of AJ's best promos in WWE up to this point. At SummerSlam, the two had the match of the year, for me. For me, it was WWE's best main roster match of 2016. And initially, it looked like Cena was going to get his win back, because remember Rusev and Owens? But that wasn't the case, as Styles beat John Cena clean. He beat the face of WWE clean, and he was a heel. I know Owens did it, but nonetheless, it was still an impressive victory for AJ Styles. He beat Cena at Money in the Bank with the help of the club, but this time at SummerSlam, Styles proved that he could beat Cena without any help. Right after the match, Cena removed his armband and he left it in the middle of the ring, and basically was disappointed in himself. On that week's SmackDown, Styles bragged about how he beat up John Cena. He was bragging to the guys backstage, and he even wore Cena's armband over his head. The Phenomenal One went up to Dolph Ziggler, and he told him that he doesn't like losers. This led to a scuffle between the two, and later on, Styles came out to the ring. He told the fans that they shouldn't be Cena fans anymore, and they should be AJ Styles fans. He then called himself the face that runs the place. Since he was demanding a title shot and Dolph Ziggler had an issue with him, Daniel Bryan booked a matchup between the two for later that night. If Ziggler wins, then he's added to the Styles and Ambrose match at Backlash. Now, Styles was given the title shot due to the victory at SummerSlam, so he was in the match. This was mostly for Ziggler's benefit. Styles beat Ziggler to ensure the title match at Backlash is a singles match. Right after the matchup, Styles went up to the WWE Champion and he removed his headset. The two had a stare down to end the show. Now, the build-up to the match at Backlash was kind of fun. I mean, they only had 2 shows to build up the match. It was pretty short. Ambrose dropped Styles onto the ropes and Styles low-blowed Ambrose. It was short but sweet. The match between the two at Backlash was really great. It was an excellent encounter between two great wrestlers. Dean as champ was a bit underwhelming, but at least he had a nice final matchup as champion. Styles ended up low-blowing Dean when the ref wasn't looking, and he hit the Styles Clash on him to become the WWE Champion. Now, this was basically like Styles paying back the favor if you think about it, because they kicked each other in the groin in the build-up, and it kind of made sense for Styles to win the title that way. The fact that he won the title is crazy to me. Think about it. This was the guy who had just debuted earlier this year. This was the guy who lost to Y2J at WrestleMania. How in the hell did this guy become the man? Easy. He proved that he's the best wrestler in the company. He proved that he could be the guy, and most importantly, he proved that he could be phenomenal. One of the best moments of 2016 is seeing Styles hoist that title in the air. I wanted to see Dean hold the title a bit longer, but it wasn't to be. All in all, a phenomenal year for AJ Styles. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the Styles Clash on the like button, and perhaps the Calf Crusher on the subscribe button. Peace I'm out.